And I can't see, can you see little naughty shongile from where you are, Jean-Andre? Let's have a look with my binoculars there. She was snoozing quite nicely behind a little stump. And Karula is such a fantastic mother and an incredible huntress. And that's 2 kills in one night. And Karula's family is going to be eating well for the next couple of days. Although those little guys are growing so fast and eating so much, that daika probably definitely wouldn't have been enough for them. What is Karula? Oh no, look, she's going to come feed as well. Oh, she might be looking, there we go, to try cover some of the stomach contents or even the blood, to try make sure the scent doesn't waft and attract hyenas. Lauren in Illinois is wondering whether the male cub would try and mate with his mother or sister. Not at this age, and I mean, it's always a possibility, but normally by the time the male leopard's going to come into sexual maturity, he's probably going to be quite far away from his natal range. And now lions, it happens a lot more often. Leopards less so, but it is possible that he might try. It's just unlikely. Some juicy bits there. Now they'll be very careful while they're feeding not to open the stomach contents too much, because that smell will permeate through the air and attract possible other predators. It looks like he's after some of the soft organs. It could be kidneys and whatnot left. He also will drink the blood that is pooling inside the rib cage. That's what it looks like he might be doing to a degree now, both eating some of the soft tissue and drinking some of the blood. Now leopards will drink when they have the option to, but they are no means reliant on water. They have the most incredible array of habitats that they can survive in. But they seem to do best in mixed grassland and woodland like we have here in the low veldt of South Africa. And some of the biggest male leopards in the world are from this part of the world, from this area. Well, hello, Mix 1011, who only found us yesterday. Great to have you back with us again. And Mix 1011 says, I only found the stream yesterday. It's been amazing both times. Well, it has. We've been very lucky, though, with the Queen being very forthcoming in showing us But now I'm so happy to have her cubs back. Now she's made 2 kills, but an adult male impala and a duiker in a tree, probably about 400 meters from here. I hope you guys are getting some good screenshots. Now, James Richards wondering, will Karula fetch that duiker and bring it here, or will she leave it where it's already hoisted? She'll leave it where it's hoisted. Now, hopefully she hoists this kill as well. It's a bit heavy for her now, an adult male impala, so they still need to eat quite a bit more of it before she's going to be able to hoist this. And there's always the risk when these kills are on the ground that it could be stolen by hyena or lion. Or male leopard will also steal the kill from her, and he might share it, just depends. Now get ready, I'm waiting for him to look up at me with that wearing lipstick. I haven't got the right shot yet. I'm hoping little Shongile is going to make her way to join the feast at some point. Okay, well, we're going to sit here. Hopefully little Shongile is going to come out shortly. And while we do that, let's go back to Jamie and quarantine.
Quarantine appears to have found his place for the day. It's a perfectly sheltered spot where he is sleeping away quite happily. And this is the only view that we can get of him. It's the best possible view that we have. But what we'll probably do is once we're done here, we'll probably leave and start making our way back to Djuma where we can hear things again. But for now, we'll stick around a little bit longer and watch as this beautiful cat snoozes away. Nina's talking about family relations out here, and of course we've got a nice little dynamic going on with Brent, with Quarantine's mother and his 2 younger siblings. You'd like to know what would happen if Quarantine and Karula were to meet. It's always a complex question with leopards, and they never do what you expect them to do. As a young male, he is an automatic threat to her cubs, and she would probably behave as such. If she were on her own, that would be a different story. She might even tolerate him quite happily. And if she were an estrus, as is with all leopards, if she were an estrus and he were showing signs of dominance, she might even mate with him. Leopards and lions are not concerned with the same moral implications that human beings are. But generally that isn't what happens. For the most part, they would meet up peacefully. If she didn't have cubs with her, they'd meet up peacefully. They could even share kills. I'm certain in my own mind that she would recognize him as her son. That being said, if her cubs were there, it would be a whole different ball game. She would probably growl and block him and try and distract him in the same way we saw Shadow do with Sindile, not be friendly to him at all, and try and lead him away, and her cubs would disappear off into the vegetation. That being said, again, leopards do strange things. It's not unheard of to have multiple generations sharing a kill quite peacefully and quite happily. And Quarantine's at that curious age. He's at that in-between bit. Not quite fully dominant yet. Not quite having established a territory, starting to call and spray and mark his territory. And at the same time, he is just big enough. He's on that cusp where it could go either way. So it's impossible to say for sure. And also, I think it probably depends upon the personality of the cats as well, as to how they respond to each other. Quarantine has often been seen sharing kills with Mvula, and often seen calling to Mvula and acknowledging his presence. VM was telling me that story. Was it Quarantine, VM?
And Mvula?
Yes, Quarantine and Mvula, where Quarantine happened to stumble upon Mvula and started calling to him. A sort of familiar friend, almost. You never know what to expect. Leopards do strange things. Like the information that Ellen sent through about Shadow and Karula seen around the same kill site. Yet for the most part, Shadow and Karula don't appreciate being in each other's company. Who knows how leopards will react? We certainly don't. I've given up trying to predict what leopards are going to do at any one point in time. Could be anything. They could share kills. They could fight. Sindile and Mvula shared a kill and then had a scrap over it and then moved on. Michael, on the subject of different characters and personalities, you want to know why is it that Quarantine, I think you want to know, why is it that Quarantine has stayed quite close to Kunuma and in this territory, whilst Kunuma is dispersing and has moved quite far away and is actually moving around quite a great deal more than Quarantine. Again, I think it's entirely circumstantial and it depends upon where the young males end up. I also think it's character driven. I think you get two different personalities in every single litter. From what I understand, Kunuma is slightly smaller, but I mean that could have changed. He might have gone through a growth spurt, but always had the slightly more dominant personality of the two brothers. He was always a bit snarly, that I will say. In my 2 encounters with him, he growled at me twice. And he's been known to randomly get up, charge vehicles, and then lie back down again right next to them. Just kind of establishing his own boundaries. I don't know if it's a personality-driven thing, circumstances. Quarantine happened to stumble across a patch where he was tolerated by Shumbambalana, whilst Kunuma kept walking to explore. It might even still be that Quarantine disappears from our Traverse area. He might go into Mala Mala, he might go into Kruger. He's still too young to be firmly settled. I mean, I've heard that Kunuma's been doing some very interesting things on Londolozi, but he might have just found himself a vacuum in that particular spot. I don't know. I also find it interesting the way that Sindile has gone all the way into Kruger before, all the way back again, hangs out around his natal spot where he was raised, constantly, and then all of a sudden moves off again. There's so many pressures in these animals' lives. Alright, I don't think Quarantine's going to do terribly much more. We will try and sort out our comms issues and come back here on the Sunset Safari. But for now, I'm going to head back in the direction of Djuma. Let's head across there now, though, and go and have a look at who's getting a chance to feed on the impala carcass.
Well, Karula's on the carcass. Look at that. There we go. She's actually drinking, but it looks like little Hosana is stalking his sister. So the sister is just through the bush there. What's he up to? Is he going to play with his sister, or is he just finding a spot where he can lie down? Okay, his sister's just behind that tree he's about to go behind. There she is. Swat, swat. Let's see if she feels harassed enough to move. A serious young lady. Oh, pounce. Let's see how long it takes before she gets annoyed with him. If I go back, it'll be a bit better, Andre. I can't go forward.
Yeah, let's hold here.
Yebo. She's covering up stomach content and blood to stop smell. So anyway, that's what Karula's doing in front of us. Or she's finished doing now, and she's walking to lie down. I'm just going to move the vehicle a little bit, see if we can see those cubs a bit better. Oh, our Bendex is giving us problems. At least it's an easy fix. There we go. Now he's gone. Hassan has rushed down. He's playing in the Mawati River. Oh, sorry, Genre. I'm trying to get. So we just saw him diving down into the Mawati. He's playing stalk things. There he is. There he is. Bobby's wondering, as more and more leopards are born, won't their territories become smaller? With what happens with female leopards, especially the older they get, the smaller their territories get, and the more cubs they have, the smaller their territories get, as they keep giving sections of their territory off to female cubs. What a little horror. Having a grand old time. Hiding in, or trying to make himself flat in the little white berry bushes. Now we're going to be incredibly spoilt for the next little while with these leopards. So, Bobby, what happens is, and with male territories it's a bit different from female territories. So as a female leopard has more and more female cubs, her territory shrinks. Until, that's quite often towards the end of her life, when she's around 13, 14 years old. She's left with the worst part of her territory at a time when she's not actually that fit and healthy. So generally leads to a female leopard's demise. Males are a bit different. So what happens is males are normally hold domain for good 4 or 5, sometimes a bit longer years over an area. And then there seems to be a switch, and they sort of swing and move into a slightly different territory. And this is an instinctive response to inbreeding. So by swinging a little bit into a different territory, I'm just going to move a little bit so you guys can see again. Make sure we don't fall off the... How's that, John? Right? Can we get his head? Yeah. There we go. So the males, after about 5 years of being dominant over an area, will generally shift their territory. It doesn't really matter which direction, but a little bit away from where their core has been, and that's mostly to try stop them breeding with their daughters. And that's a little instinctive thing. So they do it without really even knowing that they need to push away from where they're more likely to have lots of offspring. Then again, when they get to sort of 11, 12, they come under pressure from a younger male, normally 5, 6 years old, who's coming into an area, and will push them in, and they'll become like Mvula. He sort of lives on the peripheries at the moment, avoiding conflict as best he can. Oh, it's tired kitty now. Nice cool sand, fat belly. What more could you want as a young leopard? Now, Tanner is wondering, how old are big cat cubs when they go on their first hunt with their mom? Well, they don't really go hunting with their mother. They might be there when she makes a kill, but generally they're left separate. And they don't need to be taught how to hunt. They're instinctive hunters. They have that knowledge ingrained in them. But it could be as young as 3 weeks, or no, sorry, not 3 weeks, 3 months. If they're following her and she happens to see something, she happens to kill it. They don't really learn from that. They are instinctive hunters. They don't need to be taught. So mothers will generally leave them when they go hunting because they're a bit of a pain when you go hunting. They normally will make their first kill between 3 and 6 months. It'll be something small, a lizard or a squirrel or something like that. Apart from, of course, the many butterflies and moths and grasshoppers they murder before then. But generally their first big kill will be big-ish kill will be around that sort of 6-month period. The first major animal, like a impala or a dyke or something, will be after a year old. Okay, let's move to go see if we can see Shongile. There she look. You got her there, John, right? We'll try to get a bit closer, but she's... Oh, I'm going to get myself caught in there. There we go. Hosanna's actually come to join little Shongile next to her leadwood stump. Now, oh, look at that. Isn't that just too sweet? Jerry in Canada is wondering, what happens, what becomes of the rest of the carcass after the leopards are finished with it? So you might get lots of different scavengers feeding off. Hyena might finish it off, and vultures if they spot it, bateleur, tawny eagle. You see their ears popping up. Let's look at that paw on the sitting there. Look at that. Just got her paw just sitting up on the log there. Now Mick 1011 is wondering, do these cats ever scratch at tree bark and that? They do. It's very important for them to do that because it helps them clean their nails. You've got to be cleanly, because otherwise, I mean, well, underneath a leopard's nails is not very, very hygienic. It's filled with quite a lot of rotten flesh and such. Oh, there's little Shongi. Oh, she likes that leadwood log, that one. It's a good pillow. Oh, it's all settling down here. They've all got full bellies, lots of meat still around. Temperatures getting warmer. Still quite chilly with the window. Okay, well, we sit here and wait to see what happens next with Karula and the two cubs. Let's go back to Jamie and see how she's been faring down on Cheetah Plains.
We are almost out of Cheetah Plains, in fact, making our way back towards Djuma, where I can hear your questions properly and we can go and search for the Nkuhumas. I have a funny feeling we're going to find them somewhere on a kill. And I have a funny feeling it'll probably... I think let's head across there and find out exactly what they were up to last night. The Nkuhumas have been unstoppable over the last few days, catching buffalo after buffalo after buffalo, 2 in 24 hours. I have no doubt they're going to be around. We'll go and figure out exactly what's happening there. Yesterday on the sunset safari, the young lioness was with one of the Birmingham boys, but he definitely wasn't getting anywhere with her yesterday. Both of them were thoroughly asleep. This is interesting. Proper chunk of fur. Actually, almost. Looks as though it could have come from a mane. Perhaps there was a scrap. No, I'm definitely not touching that. It's still gooey inside. Could also be a hairball that one of the cats coughed up. Perhaps a leopard or a lion stopped along the way. There's no tracks here, which still makes me think it's blown in this direction. Either way, thoroughly unhygienic. Having talked about quarantine and their digestive systems and internal parasites and bacteria, no thank you. Let's go and look at those zebra instead. Here we go, so we've got a breeding herd, or a harem actually is the correct terminology, of zebra. Now let's go and see how this social structure is playing out, because generally what you'll find is that the female will walk ahead, usually the highest ranking female. Let's see if that's what we've got here, or with the stallion walking behind. Nope, I'm actually wrong. It is not a harem at all. It's a young group of stallions. It's a bachelor herd. And these two little ones that are crossing the road, like this one, and here comes the second, they are still very, very young. They must have only just left the safety of their herd. Don't think I've ever seen a bachelor group with stallions this young. They're still colts, basically. I just need to shift out of the way. Obviously, there is a large white vehicle looking at me with disdain. No, I'm joking. Not looking at me with disdain. Sorry, Zebbies. Just pop off the road. Oh, it's Shanae! Oh, and she's gone. Bye, Shanae. Welcome back. Shanae, by the way, is one of the guides who works at Nkoro. It'll be a name that's familiar with many of you, since she spent a lot of time before she came out to train as a guide, watching the live drives and chatting with the various viewers. It's truly wonderful to see her living out her dream. She seems so happy. Every time I see her, she's got a massive smile on her face. There the zebras are. Interesting. There's not all that much grass here on this particular patch of Torchwood, but they seem to be doing just fine. All of the zebra now looking particularly healthy. I haven't seen a floppy mane in a long time, which is of course the only way to see whether or not a zebra is unhealthy in any way, shape or form, since they always look a bit rotund. But the best way to see if a zebra is in bad condition is when their mane starts to flop, because they start to lose condition of the muscles, which means the tendons and so on that hold the mane upright start to flop over. A young group of stallions. It's the typical herd structure. They are herd animals. You very seldom see a zebra all on its own. You might every now and again see a male that's managed to set off on his own to go and search for his harem. Those yellow-billed or red-billed? Aww, red-billed. Not that there's anything wrong with red-billed. It's just I was hoping to see some yellow-billed oxpeckers today, the slightly rarer of the two species. Now, speaking of zebra manes, fox hat. You want to know if I've ever seen a zebra with an all-black mane? No, I haven't. I've never seen that in the wild. I've seen a zebra with barely any stripes around its legs and its bottom. You do, of course, get genetic differences, but I have never ever seen a zebra with an all-black mane. I'm hesitant to say it's not possible, though, just because in terms of genetic differences, you probably find that there is somewhere in the world a zebra with a black mane, but I have never seen it personally. There are certain species that are more prone. How's it? How are you? Good morning. How are you? Good, thank you. Hi, everybody. Cool. Enjoy. Just chatting, sorry everybody, just chatting to one of the Simbabili guides who looks thoroughly chuffed with life. Right, what was I talking about? Oh yes, melanism. You'll find that some species are more prone to melanism than others. Lions, for example, you don't find it in the wild, but you will find leucism. I'm not 100% sure about zebra and whether or not there are any with black manes out here in the wild. As we make our way back towards Djuma, Brent, of course, is already there. Let's go and see whether or not the cubs have woken up from their slumber.
Definitely still snoozing. As you can see, little Shongile is using that leadwood stump as a very good pillow. It's a tired kitty, got a full belly. It's just too sweet. You can just see her brother behind her, he's also napping away. And mom's off to our right, also fast asleep. Oh, there you go. Alexander is wondering, how many cubs will a leopard have during its lifetime? Well, it all depends. Oh, the sun's quite bright there. It all depends. So on average, she'll have her first set of cubs that are around 3 or 4 years old. And then normally on average every 2 years from there. So 3, 6, 8, 10, 12, more or less. So generally probably 5 sets of cubs. Now this also depends on when, if they get killed. So probably say maybe 8 or 9 sets. Remember that leopard cubs have a 70% mortality rate when they are under a year old. Oh, they're still snoozing there. Are there any stations on standby for this Karula sighting? Oh, such a tired little kitty. I can hear some elephants close by. I don't think we're going to have too much more action for now. I think everyone's got full bellies and is going to snooze. So why don't you guys let me know what you would like to do? Would you like us to stay here with Queen Karula and Hosana and Shongile? Would you like us to move on and go look for some elephants or maybe some lions? You can do that by using the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send us an email to questions@WildEarth.TV. Now, Calvin's wondering, why do leopard, cheetah, and lions have spiky hair around their mouths? Well, it's not actually hair. Or it is hair, but it's called a whisker, or in big cats it's called vibrissae, and they are sensory organs, and they are able to pick up little vibrations or changes in the air. Also, if they're moving through the bush, to stop them putting their heads into thorns and things like that. Is Mom up? No, everyone is fast asleep. You can just make out Karula through the bush behind me, and she is very much a very flat cat in the guarri thicket. There we go, you can just see her belly there. Okay, we can't see the cubs from where we are now. They've gone completely flat. I'm going to just move back a little bit, see if we can see Karula. Lala would like to know, we said she knows Karula will try to protect her cubs from danger, but would the cubs try to protect each other from danger? No, they wouldn't. I think it would be pretty much each little leopard for itself and who could get away the fastest. I want to do a little bit of 25 point turn to get out of here. So it seems like the majority of people are voting to go find some elephants. Let's see if we can get one last look at Queen Karula, and then we're going to head to where I can hear those elephants breaking branches. Okay, there we go. So this is where we spotted her from initially. I think the view from the side is a little better. Not much though. go. Okay, let's go check for those elephants. It didn't sound too far away. Now, while we try get towards those, well, they literally, I can hear them coming closer. Let's go see what Jamie's up to in the meantime.
Trundling along the eastern boundary, I'm going to try and see if we can't work out where those lions have gone. My goodness gracious, I'm seeing a lot of impala at the moment. We're seeing the mix, now that rutting season is over, the breeding herds coming back together in massive numbers. And every time I pass a herd, there must be at least 40 to 50 individuals wandering around. And that's interesting because the males are still chasing the females round and round and round in circles. And the poor females, you can see the one on the right, are so pregnant. It's probably the last thought, the last thing on their mind, or the last desire is to be chased around by a male that's definitely got his breeding seasons all mixed up. It's interesting, I've seen more conflict between male impala than I usually see at this time of year. We do occasionally get the false rut when the impala ewes start to give birth. But other than that, impala have a very strict breeding season. I'm not sure what it is, perhaps this strange weather has confused them in terms of when they should actually be mating with the females. Either way, for now, this particular herd has settled down, and they're all quite comfortable and content, feeding away and having their breakfast. I just want to see if I can catch up with that Nyala ram that's also part of this herd, weirdly enough. There he is at the back. Let's go forward a little bit and we can maybe get a better view of one of the most attractive antelope. Yesterday evening on the sunset safari, as we were trying to catch up with the Queen Karula when she went back to fetch her cubs, we had a procession line of 5 Nyala bulls all walking together. It was such a wonderful sighting. All walking in a line. There we go. And a Nyala with an identity crisis. Now, I think you'll probably find that last night he went for... Oopsie! Very good question from David in Napa, while our Nyala carefully poses, his leg up in the stinks that he's just tripped over, trying to pretend like he meant to do that. And David would like to know what the white dots on the faces of the Nyala are for. They kind of look like tribal paint in a way, war paint. I don't fully know. I mean, typically white patterns on animals. There we go, we've got a female as well. Oh, sorry, mister. So I said you had an identity crisis, but you've actually got a lady with you. So typically the stripes and the spots are there as to break up the outline of the animal when they move through an area like this. Especially in dense vegetation for a Nyala, they try and rely on they're hidden rather than out in the open. The same applies to kudu and bushbuck. As to why it's on the face, well, that's an interesting question. Well, typically, white, apart from breaking up an outline, can be used to highlight facial expressions because, of course, the face is one of the most important parts that is involved in visual communication with other species. I don't know why the white dots on the face. I know they're beautiful. I know, of course, Teresa's lovely story about the white being where the creator reached down and touched the animal to help them stand up on their skinny legs with the stripes and the spots. They do almost look like fingerprints on some of them. But a good question. I don't know why that amount of white on the face. Trying to think why that might be. The females don't have it, the males do. I'm going to do some more research, David, and chat to other people and see if we can get a few theories going. And you're welcome to contribute with your theory as to why you think the Nyala bulls have white on their face. I can't think of a specific reason. It's visual communication and breaking up outlines. Those are the two main reasons behind coloration. Don't know. Good question. This is why I love these live safari drives. You get asked questions you don't know the answer to. Ah, Another brilliant question. Another good thing to think about. I'm afraid our Nyala have moved off, otherwise I'd stop and look at them again. Curious one wants to know, why don't Nyala have purple tongues like giraffes, since they eat the same things? Essentially, they eat thorns. Why don't any of our antelope have... They do have slightly darker tongues than the predators, I will say that. I'm thinking. My brain is working furiously. I don't know the answer. Let's see what you two are up to. Very, very good question, curious one. Evolutionary tactics, I guess it just didn't work out that way, but I don't know why. You'd think that all of the animals, I mean, even elephants have bright pink tongues. What is it that makes giraffe special? What you doing, squirrels? I think we interrupted something. I'm not sure whether we interrupted a fight or something slightly more affectionate. There are two of them there. Oh, hold on. Now they're moving away from each other. They're so cute. Oh, wow! Oh, that's incredible. Look at that. There's an agama there. Well spotted, Kirsty. Isn't that camouflage incredible? I am bark, I am bark, I am bark. I am not a lizard, I am bark. A tree agama busy sunbathing, warming up in the heat of the morning light. There you go, now you can see it properly as it moves. Look at that. Two totally different species in one shot. And these are the same types of reptiles that you might have seen before on these live drives that can have vibrantly blue heads. An incredible coloration. Now this could be one of two things. This could be a female, obviously doesn't need the same bright coloration that the males do when they are breeding, or it could be a male that's adopted a slightly different approach. So the males take two different approaches to life. One style is to be brightly coloured in blue and very sort of aggressive about displaying dominance. The other is to pretend to be a female, to look subtle and different coloured, the same colour as the female, and hopefully fool the other dominant males into thinking that it's of no consequence and no threat to them, and therefore manage to sneak in and mate with the females whenever the others are not looking. A standoff. Or perhaps just a friendly conversation between two neighbours. They're not in competition in any way, and they probably share residence in this tree. It's like a block of flats. It takes all sorts to make a home. The fascinating view that we have here. And those amazing clawed feet. You can see the really bristly scales and that colouring. And helps that lizard vanish into the tree bark. I wonder if it knows it's been spotted. And we're going to have more and more incredible reptile sightings just like this as summer starts to warm up and the rainy season comes through. You can see the squirrels also cold, also taking the opportunity to sunbathe a little bit. His little feet gripping onto the bark. What's the baby squirrel in Connor's room called? Or Connor's old room called?
No, he came into my room yesterday.
Did he? Tato. Tato, the baby squirrel that has arrived at DRC, apparently came into Viam's room yesterday evening. What was it doing, Viam?
No, he just ran into the door and when they saw me, ran out.
Ran in through the door. Yeah. Tato is a baby squirrel that lives in the Wendy house at DRC. And at one point, I believe, fell out of its nest and was rescued by Connor, who tried to put it back into the nest. And apparently, according to Connor, Mom was being quite useless. I'm trying to see if I can... Sorry, just one more time. I'm trying to see if I can see that lizard again. But I think it's actually gone. The agama, sorry. Where'd it go? Huh. Is it there and just really well camouflaged? No. No, it's gone. The squirrel's moved back to its spot. Cool. This same albizia is where we had those incredible bush baby sightings at the start of our Mara week. And there's also at least two bush babies living in this tree. This tree is obviously the place to be. Much desired property, real estate on Djuma's eastern boundary. I'm going to carry on looking for those lions. Let us see whether or not Brent has had any luck with his elephants.
Here we go. The Eddies were just up the road, actually very close to Karula. No more than, I don't know, 100 meters or so. So it's the same herd we could hear feeding while we were sitting with the Queen and her progeny. Nice little female there. They are slowly moving towards Karula, so we'll stick with them for now. See if they head down into the Mawati riverbed. Now, quite often we have some doubters out there, and Eddie the Medi, who's brand new, would like to know if this is live. It is, Eddie. I'm answering your question live from the middle of the African bush, sitting next to elephants. And not even 100 meters away is a female leopard with 2 cubs. And Jamie's out there looking for some lions. Well, you can see how varied an elephant's diet is. That female was eating a bit of grass, now she's moving on to a bit of bush willow. Quite strong winds today. Quite a big group of elephants, and they stretch all behind us as well. There's a female I haven't seen before coming through to the right. I hope she's going to step out into the open, but she's got quite a unique set of tusks. So she's got quite a long left tusk and then a slightly upturned right tusk. I actually haven't seen this female before, and we are experiencing an incredible amount of elephants at the moment around Djuma. And these little ones come closer to us. Probably about a year, just over a year old. You can see it's mastered the art of the trunk. Yes, hello, hello. Oh, very scary. We are suitably scared, thank you. That little female. You can see the angular shape of her head. Oh, I say we're about to be surrounded. Look at this. I'm going to do a bit of suck. What are you doing, silly? Are you eating sand? There, spit it out. Yes, fuff. Now, it's not uncommon for elephants to eat soil or sand. They do get certain nutrients from it, minerals, iron, salt. You heard there's an elephant just behind us who's talking to the other elephants. This one's being very funny at the moment. Waving the trunk around. Now it's trying to get rid of the sand out of his trunk. Now, hello, James, who's in Canberra, Australia, and James is wondering, how do elephants identify? Oh, there's an elephant just behind us, don't worry. How do they identify which plants are edible, and how do they learn this? Well, a lot of it would have been learnt a long time ago. And what are you doing now, elephant? Sorry, this one just keeps distracting me. And a lot of it would have been learnt a long time ago by probably trial and error. Now they are able to identify, I would say, mostly by smell is what they would identify as edible. They have an incredible sense of smell in that very long trunk of theirs. I'm just going to roll down the road a little bit. Oh, you can hear them talking again. Now these are unbelievably massive animals that could easily flip over our vehicle. And if you read their body language correctly and you drive carefully and respectfully around them, you can see they just continue on with their day while completely ignoring you. Might come up to the vehicle. Here's a big female. She's about. She's gonna push. Is she gonna push down that little tree? She was thinking about it. Decided against it. Hello, big girl. It's okay. Good girl. It's okay. There she goes. Sorry, Quill, I missed your question. I was just concentrating on watching her body language there. Oh, incoming little one. Yes, hello, Scary. We hear them communicating all around us. Cool, I'll get your question in a second. Now, those low rumbles are just the ones we can hear. They have a multitude of frequencies that are well below what human beings can hear. Now, you'll notice that some of the elephants, well, this one hasn't quite got her tusks yet, but some of the elephants have broken tusks, and Quill in Louisiana is wondering, do they grow back? They will continue to grow, but if they're really, really broken, they might grow a little bit, but they don't sort of grow back to the same shape. They'll always be quite misshapen after they break. And sometimes they might not grow back at all. It just depends on the depth of where those tusks were broken. So we're literally surrounded by elephants at the moment. It is wonderful to just spend time with these incredible animals. Yeah, I'm just listening to the game drive radio for a second. Oh, hello. What you smelling? So, see an elephant pops its trunk up like that, she's giving us a good sniff. You can see she's the one with that slightly upturned tusk, and the long left tusk. Now, I haven't seen this elephant before. What's going on at the back behind her? Something going on there. And that big female, what is she doing? Is that a female? Oh, it looks. That's a female. It's a very massive elephant cow. I think it is a very big female. Look how she was backing away to push a tree. And you can see a lot of fallen trees all around us, and the majority of that is from elephants. Even this big tree right next to us was certainly pushed over. This one this size was definitely done by an elephant bull though. Now, a lot of people consider this damage. I don't. It's elephant activity, and it's very, very good for the environment. So elephants are one of your keystone species that have the ability to change the environment around them. And for the last 10 years we've had a very wet cycle. Copy, no problem. And we've had a very wet cycle, so a lot of the little bushes and trees we're seeing are all sort of under 10 years old. Now, the more trees and bushes you have, the less grass you have, and grass is actually a better thing to eat than trees and bushes, and with a higher nutrient value. So everything goes in cycles out here. So with the elephants because of the drought, the elephants have been very heavily feeding on the trees and bushes, and this will add nutrients to the soil as the termites break up all those trees and bushes, and it'll add open spaces for the grass to grow without competing for sun with trees. So obviously trees over grass stops a lot of the sunlight getting through to them, and it can make the grass distribution a bit patchy. So a drought and then a little bit of rain like we've had with the elephants really hammering the trees is actually quite good for the bush, and it'll often increase your grazing species: impala, wildebeest, zebra, buffalo. So even though drought can be quite difficult to watch and quite sad, it is part of the natural system. Okay, we're going to trundle on, see what else we can come across, and while we do that, it sounds like Jamie's found some more elephants.
We have indeed found more elephants. Well, we would have struggled hard to miss them, given that they're currently standing right in the middle of the road. While we watch our elephants feed, I want to go back to Curious One's question, because it's been vexing me while I've been driving along. So Curious One's question was, why do giraffe have purple tongues, but none of the other antelope species that are browsers and eat thorns do? Now, my conclusion was that because the antelope that browse are slightly smaller than the giraffe, they don't need to eat as much as the giraffe do, and therefore, because they've got smaller heads and more nimble lips, they can actually afford to be slightly more selective about the leaves that they grab, and therefore their mouths don't need to be as tough. That doesn't explain why elephants have pink tongues. The only thing I can think there is that it's some kind of, I guess you'd call it divergent evolution, that two different animal species have evolved different solutions to the same problem. So, I mean, elephants are not completely indiscriminate about what they eat, but for the most part you'll see them grab a branch full of spiky thorns, or even spines in the case of the Dicrostachys or the sicklebush trees, and they seem to be impervious to it. So I don't know exactly how the cell on the epidermis on the inside of their mouth is strengthened. Oh, excuse you. What's up, elephants? But it must be thickened and toughened in some other way that doesn't make it dark. I don't know, it's just a thought. I don't actually have the answer. It's just what I've been thinking about while I've been trundling along and watching these elephants feed around the spike-thorn thicket. I would reposition, but I think that would be a relatively bad call at this point. It's a windy day, which always tends to make elephants slightly more on edge, and if I reposition now, I'm going to separate the mother from that little calf that crossed in front of us, which you don't really want to do. I will just sit patiently here and enjoy the view that we have. They are slowly but surely moving out of my way. And all of the animals out here have the right of way. It is their home and not mine. Well, it is my home, but it's more their home than it is mine. Little one. Feeding off the spike thorns, giving us the perfect opportunity to have a look at their amazing feet and their toenails. Look at that little residual. Is that the foot bending over a rock, or is that a toenail on the left? A strangely shaped one. I think it's the foot bending over a rock. I love this camera. It gives us the opportunity to have such amazing views of these creatures. Speaking of amazing views of this little one, Alexandra, you wanted to know how old elephants are when they grow tusks. And this is an interesting one, because this is the tuskless elephant. It is old enough to have grown tusks, and yet it doesn't seem to be. Well, it might just be a late bloomer, a late developer, but generally you start seeing the tusks poking through at about 2.5 years old. And then by 3, they've got an inch or so sticking out from close to their trunk. I think this is the one that we were looking at as a tuskless elephant. There you can see that the female's fully grown tusks. So from the age of about 3, they will start to grow. They do also have milk tusks that start to erupt when they are only a couple of months old, but they hardly ever pop out of the skin itself. So they usually fall out and are lost before anybody really has a chance to see them. But their permanent tusks will grow when they're about 3 and continue to grow throughout their lives unless something happens, if they're cracked or damaged or infected or something similar. Right, Madam Elephant, you're going to let us move forward. Somehow I don't think so. We'll just settle and wait. Now, speaking about the cold evening and the cold weather that we've been experiencing, David and Napa, you wanted to know what elephants will do to keep warm at night. Nothing really. There's not much that they can do. The babies might lie down, especially on a windy night, but generally elephants are constantly active, constantly feeding, and constantly busy. Now, for the most part, their bodies retain heat very, very well. It's part of the trade-off of having a very small surface area to volume ratio. So they've got less skin exposed to the volume of their bodies compared to something smaller like a leopard, for example. But most of these animals are very good at keeping themselves warm. It's keeping cool that is the real challenge out here. And cold doesn't seem to bother them. And in fact, some of our best elephant sightings have been in cold weather because they just have more energy. They're just happier, they're more comfortable, and they're often far less grumpy. Although that being said, the wind is always a factor. I've got no view of the elephants now except for one's bottom, but I'm reluctant to move forward until this cow moves off. She's just hidden behind this weeping wattle. I don't want to separate her from the rest of the herd. Hey, big girl. She doesn't look like she's going anywhere. Adriana, you wanted to know, while we look at our beautiful elephants, one of my favorite animals to spend time with, if African elephants are endangered. Yes, critically. They are they are endangered species. I don't think, according to the ICUN red list, that they are labelled as critically endangered, but they are definitely labelled as vulnerable. In South Africa, that isn't the case. In South Africa, we've actually, depending upon who you speak to, which particular ecologist you speak to, in South Africa, in theory, actually have too many elephants for certain populations. Because South Africa is made up of so many different smaller private reserves that are closed systems, that they have to control their elephant population through contraception or by moving elephants elsewhere. So in South Africa, they are fine. We have never had a major problem with elephant tusk poaching in the same way we have with rhino poaching. As you go further north into Africa, the situation gets more and more dire. The more unstable the country, the more at risk the elephants are, because very often the ivory trade is used as a funding for things like the ammunition and buying of arms and weaponry. Now, essentially, in places where you've got civil war, your poaching of elephants is going to be much, much higher. And of course, there's also the factor that she doesn't seem to have looked up at us at all. Maybe I can just sneak forward a little bit, just for a slightly better view while we talk about this. So much for sneaking. Got stuck on a rock. Hello, big girl. How's your view there, Viam? Got her view. There you go. She seems okay. It's a very tragic thing that something so simple as a modified tooth can be something that human beings find so valuable. It completely escapes my understanding. I don't get it. I'm sure most of you, if you're watching these live safaris, presumably you don't get it either. Now, elephants in South Africa, thank goodness, are very well protected. But it is something that there's been a much debate upon, of course, with the conference, with the CITES conference that happened in Johannesburg recently, and the outcomes of that. And essentially, to put it in the blandest possible terms, in terms of their decisions, they decided not to put elephants on the Appendix 1, which is the total ban on trade of any elephant parts, It would include selling of old ivory, new ivory, anything like that. And the countries voted against listing them as an Appendix 1 species. They remain on Appendix 2. And that's just the objective view of the decision that they made. Look at that beautiful trunk. Tucked right up. Very good question from Maggie in Australia, speaking about their amazing tusks on a slightly happier topic. We've often seen elephants with broken tusks, and Maggie would like to know if a broken tusk hurts the elephant, and how far out does the root extend. A broken tusk, if it's the tip, as you guessed, if it is the tip, it probably doesn't hurt them, although the process of breaking it probably did. If that crack goes, if there is a crack or a break that is close to the lip or where the tusk comes out, so probably I would say, I'm guessing, that nerve probably extends about an inch or so outside of where that tooth sits. But the worst part of that is when sentence gone. Word ability to speak is no longer here. If that elephant has a cracked tusk and infection spreads into the root canal itself, then it becomes exceptionally painful for that elephant. Picture the worst toothache you've ever had, and we all know what toothache feels like, some of you worse than others. You know how it goes right into your head, all down your neck. Imagine that, but imagine how deep the root system of an elephant's tusks have to extend in order to hold that tusk in place. Much longer than our teeth. Just think of how incredibly painful it is. And a lot of unexplained elephant aggression towards people has recently... Oh, she is actually missing the bit of her trunk. I didn't realize. I thought it looked a bit odd, but the sun's in my eyes and I couldn't see it properly. Okay. Is this the female with the... This isn't 2/3 trunk, Ellie. This isn't the stumpy-trunked elephant. But she does have a stumpy trunk. Hey, big girl. This is a different elephant. So that's speaking of sad things and the... let me just finish my thought before we go on to that trunk. And speaking of tusks and toothache, as I said, a lot of unexplained aggression is then explained by the fact that the elephant actually has a terrible headache and a terribly painful tooth. Right, so going back to threats to elephants... That stumpy trunk that she has, she's missing the tip of her tongue. Well, that could have been caused in one of two ways, most likely, but the most likely reason behind it is a very sad situation. She probably stumbled into a snare that had been set out for bushmeat poachers, by bushmeat poachers, trying to catch things like antelope. They often have unintended victims, probably wrapped around her trunk and squeezed till the point that it lost circulation, became infected, and the tip of the trunk dropped off. As you can see, that's probably why she's actually stayed behind. It takes her longer to feed than it would an elephant with an intact tusk. That being said, she is perfectly healthy, and she is more than capable of existing with that trunk the tip of the trunk missing. It's amazing how adaptable these creatures truly are, but it is sad to see. I'm trying to work this out. It's definitely not the same. It's not her herd, and the tusks are a little bit too thick for our 2/3 Ellie cow. We usually see one with a young calf, a 6-month-old calf, a slightly older male calf, and then a fully grown but very young female, and that's the sort of the nucleus of that little herd. And this isn't the design that we've got here, unless she's joined up with another group, but I don't think so. I think this is a different... I don't think it's her. Yeah, I think this is a different elephant cow. Shame, girl. And yet she bears us no ill will. Perfectly content for us to sit in her company. Very special. Alright, let's head across to Brent and find out what he's up to. Perhaps he's had more luck with the lions.
Okay, we're back. We have left the elephants, and I was just looking at some lion tracks, trying to figure out which way they went. So they were all around the edge of quarantine here. Just trying to see the last tracks. They looked like they were heading north. Yeah, all over. They've been chasing each other, playing. Let's have a look down this road. Hi, Logan. Logan would like to know what creature in our area is the rarest or the hardest to find. So there we go, you can see there's lion tracks going down. Someone has driven over them though. Don't see any tracks of the cubs. Logan, I am getting to your question. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. Okay. Just slowly meander down this way. Okay, so on the antelope front, I'd say the most rare and hardest to find is probably the sable antelope. On the predator front, caracal. But I think probably the rarest and most hard to find here is a striped weasel. I've only ever seen them once in the Sabi Sands. And a bird's lost. But it's quite a difficult one. I mean, a lot of the snakes are quite difficult to find, and even though they might not be rare, a lot of them live under the ground. Let's see where Jamie's checking quickly. Jamie. What area are you checking at the moment? Okay, Colin, so I'm checking Warburg's Eagle at the moment. There's tracks up at the top, but nothing coming down towards. So I'm going to go around and check that Jigga road. Okay. I'm back. So I just wanted to make sure that Jamie and I were not covering the same ground. So can we find the incredible Inkalmas in the last 11 minutes of drive? I hope so. What do you think, Chandra? I think they could be in this block here. So I'm going to zoot around to the next little road. I'm not seeing any tracks here. Now it is turning into be quite a sunny day after quite a cold, cloudy start. As you can see, I've still got my jacket on because there's a very chilly wind that's blowing through the bush this morning. Hi, Sharon in Illinois. Sharon is wondering, do the animals smell the cooking from our camp and come have a look? Not really, no, Sharon. Most of them will avoid it. Sorry, I hear a bird calling. I'm just trying to see if I can spot it. Nat. Yes. Okay, swing 90 degrees. Oh, you little devil. No, it's there, it's landed again. Keep in that little... Oh, there he goes. Oh, can you get there, Andre? There's two of them here, right? They're so pretty. Go, Andre, go. Oh, one flew, but the other one's there. Oh, there they are. Can you see them? No. Okay. Right. It's behind the light. Oh, you terrible. What? Don't fly away while I move. Okay, maybe forward might be. Let's see if I can see it. Yes, there. There we go. Ah, little white-bellied sunbird, aren't they pretty? Oh, poof. And fast. Gonski. You still got one? No. Yay, a sunbird! Little white-bellied sunbird. But let's go from the tiny to the massive with Jamie.
Well, tiny. Oh, look. Oh, that's so sweet. It's nap time here with our wonderful elephant herd. 2 little babies have gone straight to sleep on the banks of a drainage line or a river system, with mom and grandmother standing guard. That is so special. It's so special I actually don't... we might have to sit here until they wake up. I feel terrible waking them up. Oh, it's so cute. Both absolutely passed out, fast asleep. Interestingly enough, lying with gravity, pulling with their heads down, facing towards the slope, which is odd. I would have expected them to lie the opposite way. And it just goes to show, we often get asked, do elephants lie down to sleep? Or how often do elephants sleep? The little ones will lie down and sleep for up to an hour at a time. They've got lots of growing to do. So it makes sense that a regular nap time, just like children, is a necessity in their lives. And they're saying something to each other. The biggest elephant, the biggest female who's standing guard, is rumbling, a deep, low rumbling sound. I'd love to know what she is saying. When we arrived, Granny was napping as well. She was standing up against that dead leadwood tree with her head resting on it. Generally, the adults don't lie down as often as the youngsters do. They can, but for the most part, they often doze with their heads resting on trees or leaning their bodies on trees. But just look at these two. Little male and a little female. It's too sweet. Elephant nap time. Passed out. I mean, they're both fine. They're both breathing quite happily. Tails swishing every now and again, but completely dead to the world. And they obviously feel so incredibly safe, as they should. There's no safer place to be than right in the center of an elephant herd, with mom and aunts and grandmothers all protecting them. Oh, that's gorgeous. Comes one of the other big females. She will have been snacking and feeding. It's amazing. The whole herd just stops when it's nap time. Everybody stops. And if you're still awake, well, you'll have to just feed around the area until the babies are ready to go. I'm tempted to sit here until, I wish we could, until the end. We'll only make it to the end of the sunrise safari. Oh, there's Granny leaning on the tree again. But one of my favorite things to watch in any elephant herd is when the adults wake the babies up. And they go and they kick them gently and they sort of nudge them with their feet, and you can see the baby's total reluctance to wake up. It's like waking your kids up for school. And they sometimes even have a little tantrum, make a lot of noise about it. Such a peaceful scene. His mom I think this is probably mom of the youngest calf, standing guard. She's also dozing. The elephant's quite capable of sleeping standing up. She's not even chewing, she's not even moving, resting one foot over the other. We're so lucky to see moments like this, and that they feel comfortable enough in our presence that we can just sit and watch this. I can't believe how asleep these little ones are. I'd love to reposition to get you a different view of them, but I'm scared of waking them up. such a restful way to end off a sunrise safari. Hey girls. And then off to the left of them is a little bull calf. I say little, yeah, he's still little. Who decided he was going to give us a little bit of nonsense on his way to join the rest of the group. He is too old for nap time. I'm going to continue to feed whilst the babies of the herd snooze away. But when he came walking up to us, he was giving us the full head shake display, running towards us and then getting scared and running back. This is why we love elephants so much. They're such characters. They play, they entertain themselves. They're just incredibly relatable from a human perspective. Looks like such an uncomfortable spot, but obviously that's the way to go. We've got flat elephants. So while we talk about flat cats all the time, now we've got flat elephants, which is unusual. Ray, these two little ones, of course, are in the infancy of their lives. You wanted to know how old an elephant can live to. It depends on whether or not they're in captivity. Their lifespans actually, I think, are shorter in captivity than in the wild, but in the wild, they can live up to between 45 and 60 years. They can live even longer than that, but that's a rare exception to that. You're usually looking at at 45 is when they get that last set of teeth. So that's why elephants die. Well, obviously they die of old age, but they go through 6 sets of molars in their lives because the constant eating constantly grinds them down. So they need to be replaced. And by the time they get to about 45, it's their final set. They don't have any more molars to replace it. It's ground down, and then at that point they start to lose condition due to natural old age, and then also due to the fact that they can't digest their food properly. But these little ones have got a long way before they get to that point. They're only on their first set of teeth, both of them. Still another 5 to go, and many, many years of learning and experience and being in the protected heart of the elephant herd. Too gorgeous for words. What a wonderful way to finish off our sunrise safari. And with this peaceful scene, it is now time for us to say goodbye as Granny rests herself against the leadwood tree. Gonk! Leaning on it. Oh, she's dozing. She's half awake. What a wonderful way to finish off. But unfortunately, it is time for us to finish off. But we do have exciting prospects for the sunset safari later on this afternoon. So a big thank you to Liam for his wonderful camera work as always, as well as to our lovely ladies Kirsty and Jerry in Final Control and our tech team keeping the wheels spinning. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for joining us, for sending us through your questions and your comments, and for keeping us on our toes with all the questions and the comments that you send through. We'll catch up with you on the sunset safari, but until then it is a time for me to say goodbye. I think let's finish off with a view of this beautiful scene, because it is truly extraordinary.